The rain was cold, sharp, and relentless, but it wasn't the storm that brought Officer Daniel Reeves to tears. It was the sight of a once proud German shepherd, ribs pressing against matted fur, sitting alone beside a glass bus shelter as if he were waiting for a command that would never come. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. For a moment, he couldn't move. He had buried this pain months ago. He had forced himself to believe it was over. But there he was. The partner he thought he had lost forever. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be heard. Daniel had served the city for 15 years, and for nearly 7 of them, he had never walked alone. Rex had been more than a K-9 unit. He had been Daniel's shadow, his protector, and, in many ways, his anchor. Rex had come into Daniel's life at a time when everything else was unraveling. A failed marriage, long nights, and the constant weight of the badge had left him hollow. But Rex had a way of pressing his head gently against Daniel's side at the end of a shift, as if reminding him that loyalty still existed in the world. Together they had tracked suspects through alleyways slick with oil and rain. They had found missing children in dark woods where fear hung heavier than fog. Rex had saved Daniel's life once, lunging forward when Daniel didn't see the danger approaching. The scar on Daniel's shoulder was a permanent reminder of that night, and of the dog who had refused to let him fall. Then came the warehouse fire. It was supposed to be routine, a suspected arson investigation in an abandoned building near the docks. But routine vanished the moment the roof groaned and gave way. Smoke swallowed everything. The heat was suffocating. Daniel remembered shouting Rex's name. He remembered the leash slipping from his hand as debris crashed between them. He remembered being dragged out by fellow officers, coughing and disoriented, screaming for his partner. They searched for hours. Fire crews combed through the wreckage. But when they finally called it, when they told Daniel there was no sign of survival, something inside him collapsed with that building. No body was recovered. No closure was given. Just ashes and silence. For months afterward, Daniel moved like a man underwater. He returned to duty but refused another K-9 partner. He couldn't replace Rex. At night, he swore he heard the soft padding of paws across his hardwood floors. He kept Rex's collar on the kitchen table, unable to put it away. Then, on a gray afternoon thick with drizzle, everything changed. Daniel had been recovering from a recent on-duty injury, temporarily confined to a wheelchair while his leg healed. A fellow officer, Mark, insisted on taking him out for some fresh air. They rolled slowly along the sidewalk, rain tapping against Daniel's cap. He wasn't really paying attention until Mark suddenly slowed. At the bus shelter ahead, curled tightly against the glass, was a German shepherd. His fur was dull and clumped with dirt. His head hung low, ears drooping. People passed without stopping. To them, he was just another stray. But Daniel knew that posture. He knew the slight tilt of the head, the faint scar above the left eye. His heart slammed painfully against his ribs. Mark saw it too, the way Daniel's hand trembled as he pointed. The world seemed to narrow until there was nothing but the man in the wheelchair and the starving dog in the rain. Daniel wheeled himself closer, ignoring the ache in his leg. The dog didn't look up at first. He seemed too tired, too defeated. Daniel's voice broke as he whispered the name he hadn't spoken aloud in months. Rex. The dog's ears twitched. Slowly, as if the sound was traveling through layers of disbelief, he lifted his head. Their eyes met. In that instant, time folded in on itself. The rain, the street noise, the passing cars, everything disappeared. Rex's gaze sharpened. Recognition flickered like a dying ember catching wind. He struggled to stand, legs shaking violently beneath him. He took one uncertain step forward, then another. Daniel was crying openly now, not caring who saw. The mighty K-9 who once leapt fences and tackled suspects could barely walk. His ribs showed through his coat. His collar was gone. But in his eyes, Daniel saw the same unwavering loyalty. Mark knelt carefully and scanned the dog for injuries while Daniel reached out, his hand hovering before finally touching the damp fur. Rex leaned into him with what little strength he had, pressing his head against Daniel's knee just as he used to after long shifts. It turned out Rex had survived the warehouse collapse by escaping through a side opening before the worst of it fell. Disoriented and terrified, he had run. The explosion of sound and heat had scrambled his senses. Without his handler, without a familiar command, he had wandered the city's industrial outskirts for months. Some days he scavenged scraps. Some days he found nothing. Gradually, the proud police dog grew thin and wary, learning to avoid people who shooed him away. But somehow, through all that time, he had stayed alive. Daniel insisted on taking Rex straight to the veterinary clinic. Tests showed malnutrition and dehydration, but no permanent damage. It would take weeks of careful feeding and rest to restore his strength. Daniel stayed by his side through every examination, every injection, every quiet whimper. Recovery was slow, but it was beautiful. Rex regained weight steadily. His coat began to shine again. The spark returned to his movements. Daniel, still healing himself, spent hours each day sitting beside Rex's bed at home, reading reports aloud or simply resting his hand on his partner's back. The silence between them felt sacred, not empty. The department held a small ceremony once Rex was strong enough to stand proudly again. Officers who had mourned him gathered to witness what felt like a miracle. Rex would not return to active duty, the months on the street had taken too much out of him. Instead, he was officially retired and placed permanently in Daniel's care. For Daniel, that was more than enough. The experience changed him. The grief he had carried like a stone in his chest began to soften. He started volunteering at local shelters on his days off, helping reunite lost pets with their families. He spoke publicly about the importance of never giving up hope, about searching a little longer, believing a little harder. Because sometimes, the ones we think are gone forever are just waiting for us to find them again. On quiet evenings now, Daniel sits on his porch with Rex at his feet. The scar on his shoulder still aches when it rains, but he no longer associates storms with loss. He thinks of resilience instead. He thinks of survival. He thinks of a starving dog who never forgot the sound of his name. If this story has touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what loyalty truly means. And before we end, I have a special request. Comment the word hope below if you believe that love can find its way back, no matter how lost it seems. Because Daniel learned something powerful on that rainy afternoon beside a bus shelter. Love does not disappear in fire. Loyalty does not dissolve in chaos. And sometimes, when we least expect it, what we thought was gone forever comes limping back into our lives, thinner, scarred, but still ours. And when it does, it can heal more than we ever imagined.